Hello, everyone. My name is Mama Bunny, and I'm so happy to see you here back at the burrow. And to all of our new friends, hello. It's so nice to meet you. How was your day? I hope it went well. And now that you're here, my day's gotten even better. Well, since this is Frog and Toad Week, I'm going to be reading the last 3 chapters of Days with Frog and Toad. How does that sound? But we can't have a story unless we get all comfy cozy. So make sure you're wearing something comfy. And don't forget to bring your favorite stuffy. I think they're going to want to hear the story too, don't you? Well then, are we all comfy? Let's get started, shall we? Our first story is called Shivers. The night was cold and dark. "Listen to the wind howling in the trees," said Frog. "What a fine time for a ghost story." Toad moved deeper into his chair. "Toad," asked Frog, "don't you like to be scared? Don't you like to feel the shivers?" "I am not too sure," said Toad. Frog made a fresh pot of tea. He sat down and began a story. "When I was small," said Frog, "my mother and father and I went for a picnic. On the way home, we lost our way. My mother was worried. "We must get home," she said. "We do not want to meet the old dark frog." "Who is that?" I asked. "A terrible ghost," said my father. "He comes out at night and eats little frog children for supper." Toad sipped his tea. "Frog," he asked, "are you making this up?" "Maybe yes, and maybe no," said Frog. "My mother and father went to search for a path," said Frog. "They told me to wait until they came back. I sat under a tree and waited. The woods became dark. I was afraid. Then I saw 2 huge eyes. It was the old dark frog. He was standing near me." "Frog," asked Toad, "did this really happen?" "Maybe it did, and maybe it didn't," said Frog. Frog went on with the story. The dark frog pulled a jump rope out of his pocket. "I am not hungry now," said the dark frog. "I have eaten too many tasty frog children. But after I jump rope 100 times, I'll be hungry again. Then I will eat you." The dark frog tied one of the ends of the rope to a tree. "Turn for me," he shouted. I turned the rope for the dark frog. He jumped 20 times. "I am beginning to get hungry," said the dark frog. He jumped 50 times. "I am getting hungrier," said the dark frog. He jumped 90 times. "I am very hungry now," said the dark frog. "What happened then?" asked Toad. "I had to save my life," said Frog. "I ran around and around the tree with the rope. I tied up the old dark frog. He roared and screamed. I ran away fast. I found my mother and father," said Frog. "We came safely home. Frog, asked Toad, was that a true story? Maybe it was, and maybe it wasn't, said Frog. Frog and Toad sat close by the fire. They were scared. The teacups shook in their hands. They were having the shivers. It was a good, warm feeling. Oh, I hope that story didn't scare you. Remember, it was only a story. But if you get scared, hold your stuffy tight, tight, tight. And give them a big hug, and the scary feeling will go away. Our next story is The Hat. On Toad's birthday, Frog gave him a hat. Toad was delighted. Happy birthday, said Frog. Toad put on the hat. It fell down over his eyes. I am sorry, said Frog. That hat is much too big for you. I will give you something else. No, said Toad. This hat is a present to me. I like it. I will wear it the way it is. Frog and Toad went for a walk. Toad tripped over a rock. He bumped into a tree. He fell in a hole. Frog, said Toad, I can't see anything. I will not be able to wear your beautiful present. This is a sad birthday for me. Frog and Toad were sad for a while. Then Frog said, Toad, here is what you must do. Tonight, when you go to bed, you must think some very big thoughts. Those big thoughts will make your head grow larger. In the morning, your new hat may fit. What a good idea, said Toad. That night, when Toad went to bed, he thought the biggest thoughts that he could think. Toad thought about giant sunflowers. He thought about tall oak trees. He thought about high mountains covered with snow. Then Toad fell asleep. Frog came into Toad's house. He came in quietly. Frog found the hat and took it to his house. Frog poured some water on the hat. He put the hat in a warm place to dry. It began to shrink. That hat grew smaller and smaller. Frog went back to Toad's house. Toad was still fast asleep. Frog put the hat back on the hook where he found it. When Toad woke up in the morning, he put the hat on his head. It was just the right size. Frog, Frog, he cried. All those big thoughts must have made my head much larger. Now I can wear your present. Frog and Toad went for a walk. Toad did not trip over a rock. He did not bump into a tree. He did not fall in a hole. It turned out to be a very pleasant day after Toad's birthday. Oh, what a good friend. Our last story is called Alone. Toad went to Frog's house. He found a note on the door. The note said, Dear Toad, I am not at home. I went out. I want to be alone. Alone? Said Toad. Frog has me for a friend. Why does he want to be alone? Toad looked through the windows. He looked in the garden. He did not see Frog. Toad went to the woods. Frog was not there. He went to the meadow. Frog was not there. Toad went down to the river. There was Frog. He was sitting on an island by himself. Poor Frog, said Toad. He must be very sad. I will cheer him up. Toad ran home. He made sandwiches. He made a pitcher of iced tea. He put everything in a basket. Toad hurried back to the river. Frog, he shouted, it's me. It's your best friend Toad. Frog was too far away to hear. Toad took off his jacket and waved it like a flag. Frog was too far away to see. Toad shouted and waved, but it was no use. Frog sat on the island. He did not see or hear Toad. A turtle swam by. Toad climbed onto the turtle's back. Turtle, said Toad, carry me to the island. Frog is there. He wants to be alone. Her Frog wants to be alone, said the turtle. Why don't you leave him alone? Maybe a rat, said Toad. Maybe Frog doesn't want to see me. Maybe he doesn't want me to be his friend anymore. Yes, maybe, said the turtle as he swam to the island. Frog, cried Toad, I'm sorry for all the dumb things I do. I'm sorry for all the silly things I say. Please be my friend again. Toad slipped off the turtle. With a splash, he fell in the river. Frog pulled Toad up onto the island. Toad looked in the basket. The sandwiches were wet. The pitcher of iced tea was empty. Our lunch is spoiled, said Toad. I made it for you, Frog, so that you would be happy. But Toad, said Frog, I am happy. I'm very happy. This morning, when I woke up, I felt good because the sun was shining. I felt good because I was a frog. And I felt good because I have you for a friend. I wanted to be alone. I wanted to think about how fine everything is. Oh, said Toad. I guess that is a very good reason for wanting to be alone. Now, said Frog, I'll be glad to not be alone. Let's eat lunch. Frog and Toad stayed on the island all afternoon. They ate wet sandwiches without iced tea. They were two close friends, sitting alone together. Oh, I'm so happy they had a great day, even if the sandwiches were a little soggy. It's always the thought that counts. Well then, little ones, I said I would read the last 3 stories, and I did. And now it's getting late, and we should go to sleep. So, get all snuggled up underneath your blankets. Hold your favorite stuffy tight, 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 so they know they are loved. Oh, and dream some wonderful dreams. And while you're having some wonderful dreams, I'll find us a story for next time. How does that sound? Well then, always remember, Mama Bunny loves you very, very much. Good night.